I never thought I'd hear those words from someone I treated like my own child. But that afternoon, as I stood in the doorway of my son's living room, I heard my daughter-in-law's voice cut through the air like a knife. "Stop living big," she snapped. "You're not some VIP anymore. Lower your lifestyle. We can't afford to babysit your needs every month." Babysit. She used that word for the money I was giving them. For years, I had been quietly sending 98 monthly transfers, automatic payments I never even mentioned. I helped them buy their house, I helped them start their business, I cleared their hospital bills, I even paid for their vacations, pretending they were family gifts. They never asked, but they also never thanked me. And now, standing in front of me, my daughter-in-law folded her arms and said, "You should live simply now. Sell your farmhouse or something. Old people don't need that much space." My own son didn't look up from his phone. Not a word, not even eye contact. I felt the floor move beneath me. She continued, voice colder than marble, "Actually, it's better if you shift to a smaller apartment. Once you're settled, we'll see how much support we can give." Support. She was lecturing me about support. For the first time, I asked calmly, "How much money do you think I have?" She smirked. "That's not the point. Whatever it is, you should manage it better. Don't rely on us." My hands shook, not from anger, but from a truth I had ignored for too long. These people didn't love me. They loved my silence and my money. And that was the moment, right there, when something inside me quietly clicked. They thought I was weak, dependent, blind. But they had no idea that every month, 98 invisible threads of kindness were holding their life together. So I smiled, calm, steady, unbothered. "You're right," I said softly. "I should manage my money better." That night, without a word, without a warning, I canceled every single one of those 98 monthly transfers, and what followed changed everything. I wasn't born into wealth. In fact, the first half of my life was spent in a 2-room house with cracked walls and a tin roof that shook whenever the wind got angry. My father was a mason, my mother a school helper. I grew up watching them stretch every rupee like rubber, pulling it until it almost snapped, yet somehow managing to survive one more day. Maybe that's why I was obsessed with stability. I didn't want my children to grow up in the same fear-filled nights I did, wondering if we could afford next month's flour or if the rent collector would bang on the door again. So I worked, harder than I knew was humanly possible. I built my carpentry workshop from nothing, just a borrowed toolbox and a stubborn hope. One order turned into two turned into a small shop, then a factory, and before I knew it, my hands were no longer sanding wood. They were signing contracts. By the time my son Ryan and my daughter Hebo were teenagers, we had a house big enough for them to get lost in. Their school fees were paid without thinking. Their birthdays had cakes so big they made the guests gasp. I wanted them to have ease, but maybe I gave them too much. In the early years, Ryan was gentle. He'd follow me around the workshop, asking questions, eyes full of curiosity. Heba was the opposite, sharp, observant, always the first to clean up the teacups after guests left. She was more like her mother, calm and soft-spoken, but somewhere between college and adulthood, something shifted. Rayan became distant, not rude, just disconnected. He stopped calling me Baba and switched to Dad, like he was trying to impress someone. He stopped visiting the workshop, stopped asking questions, stopped caring about the world I had built. I told myself it was normal. Children grow up, build new lives, move on. But then I started noticing small things. His tone grew shorter, his patience thinner. He'd interrupt me mid-sentence, something he never did as a child. When I talked about my business, he'd roll his eyes like I was boring him. And then one evening, while visiting him, I opened a drawer looking for a pen and found something that made my heart thump, a printed document with my name at the top, a document I had never seen before. Before I could read further, I heard footsteps approaching. I quickly shut the drawer, but my mind didn't shut anything. Because for the first time, I wondered, the first time I met Ayesha, my future daughter-in-law, I had no idea she would one day tighten the rope around my neck with her own hands. She entered our home wearing a warm smile and a crisp white kurta, greeting everyone politely. I remember thinking, mashallah, she seems humble, and her family, respectful, educated, soft-spoken. I thought Rayan had chosen well, but even the softest breeze can turn into a storm when the weather changes. During the engagement dinners, she said things that sounded harmless at first. Little comments disguised as jokes. "Uncle, your house is so old-style, vintage. Uncle, Why do you still keep a personal diary that's so cute? Cute. Old style, vintage, small stabs covered with sugar. At gatherings, she would correct Rayan's stories, like she wanted to show she knew him better. She controlled what he wore, what he ordered, where he sat. I didn't mind at first. New couples are like that, glued together, adjusting. But soon, I noticed Rayan changing, more than he should have. He began speaking differently, less respectfully, more casually, almost dismissive. He laughed at jokes Ayesha made about traditional parents. He started treating me like someone who was falling behind in life. I brushed it off. She's young. I told myself, she'll understand with time. After marriage, I continued supporting them, sometimes too much. I helped pay their rent. I gave Rayan capital for his business. I cleared a loan they had taken for renovations. I never mentioned it to anyone, not even Heba. But gratitude, I never saw it in Ayesha's eyes. Instead, I saw a calculation. One evening, I came to visit them unannounced. The door was slightly open. I heard voices inside Ayesha and her friends talking. Once we get the estate papers sorted, she said casually, we can finally plan the do-by move. Estate papers. Do-by, my chest tightened. Her friend asked, is your father-in-law giving everything to Rayan? She laughed, no, but he will. He trusts us blindly and honestly. It's time the property refreshes. Old people don't need so much. My hand froze on the doorframe. Before I could hear more, someone inside moved closer to the entrance. I stepped back, pretending I had just arrived, but a dangerous feeling had already planted itself in my body. Over the next few months, I noticed the shift becoming more obvious. Not sudden, not explosive, just a slow, silent erosion of respect. Ayesha began speaking over me at family dinners. Rayan stopped asking how I was. They both started treating me like an aging piece of furniture. Still present, but no longer necessary. One day, Rayan said casually, Dad, why don't you stay with us for a while? It'll be easier for you. Easier, for whom? I knew the tone. It wasn't an invitation. It was a plan, and not his plan. Hers. Ayesha took over small decisions first. Uncle, why don't you sell your old car? I'll help you choose a newer one. Uncle, give me your property papers. I'll organize them. Uncle, we should streamline your accounts. Digitalization is important nowadays. Every sentence of hers had a hook hiding inside it. Heba noticed something too. She said quietly one afternoon, Baba, and Bab, I talk about your assets a lot. Just be careful. I smiled at her concern, but inside I felt something sink. Then one Sunday morning, Rayan brought a bunch of papers to my house. Dad, these need your signature. He said casually, for what? Oh, just some routine bank updates. Nothing major. Ayesha added sweetly, trust us, Uncle. We're just simplifying things. Simplifying what? I held the papers in my hand, and a strange coldness ran through me. The text was dense, complicated, not at all like routine updates. Before I could ask questions, Ayesha's phone rang. She stepped into the hallway to take the call. And in that moment, I noticed something, her handwriting, on sticky notes attached to the pages. One note said, have him sign this first. Another said, important for transfer. My fingers tightened around the pages. Rayan noticed my hesitation. He looked annoyed. Dad, don't overthink everything. Just sign. We're trying to help you. Help me. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was my lawyer and old friend, Cameron. His message made my breath stop. Important. Don't sign anything. Call me immediately. My eyes shifted from the message to the papers, to my son's impatient face. A tremor ran through me, because for the first time in my life, I realized my own blood might be planning a betrayal deeper than I was prepared for. I didn't sleep the night Cameron warned me. His message replayed in my mind like a drumbeat. Don't sign anything. What had he seen? What had he suspected? The next afternoon, I went to Rayan's house to return the papers, without signing them. I wanted to talk calmly, understand their intentions, maybe even give them a chance to explain. But the moment I walked in, I realized calm conversations were no longer part of this family. Ayesha opened the door, arms crossed, face sharp. Oh, it's you, she said, as if I were an unexpected salesman. I ignored the tone, where's Rayan? She gestured carelessly toward the living room. My son sat on the couch, legs up, eating chips, watching TV like a child. He barely looked up. You came without calling, he muttered. You know we get busy. I felt something crack inside me. I wanted to return these. I said, holding the papers, I won't be signing anything until I understand what they are. Ayesha raised an eyebrow and laughed lightly. Uncle, don't be dramatic. They're just bank updates. I opened the document and pointed. Then why is this line here, authority to manage, modify, or withdraw funds? Why am I transferring legal access to you? She rolled her eyes. Because you're old, Uncle. Someone younger needs to handle things. Old. My own son didn't defend me. He didn't say a word. Ayesha continued, voice slicing through the room. You should be grateful we're even offering help. Most children don't want extra responsibilities, but we're willing to take care of you. Let us handle your accounts. Handle. Or control. I felt heat rise in my chest. I never asked for your help, and I don't need it. She laughed, not kindly, mockingly. Uncle, you can't even use the bank app properly. You think you can manage all that money alone. Rayan smirked but stayed silent. I stepped forward, controlling my voice. I built my life without anyone's help. I can manage my own accounts. Ayesha leaned in as if whispering a secret. Well, you used to, but at your age, mental clarity drops. Maybe it's already happening. The words hit me like a slap. I stared at my son. Rayan, is this what you think too? He shrugged. Ayesha just wants what's best for you. No, she wanted what was best for herself. I turned toward the door, deciding to leave before my anger exploded. But before I could exit, Ayesha said loudly, If you don't trust us, Uncle, stop expecting us to help you with your monthly expenses. Monthly expenses, I froze. I never asked you for a single rupee, I said. She gave a cold smile. You will, soon. Something inside me twisted. Fear, a feeling I hadn't felt in decades. Because suddenly, buried under all her arrogance, I sensed something worse. The next morning, I received a call from Ayesha. No greeting, no respect. Uncle, we're coming over. Keep those papers ready. Before I could protest, she hung up. An hour later, the doorbell rang. They entered like they owned the house. Ayesha placed the documents on my table. Rayan stood behind her with his hands in his pockets, expression blank. Let's make this simple, she said. Sign here, here, and here. I didn't move. She dragged a chair toward me and sat down like an interrogator. Uncle, things are changing. You need someone to manage your estate, your health, your age. It's softening your judgment. My hands clenched. I am perfectly capable. She smiled like I was a child refusing vegetables. Sure, but banks don't wait for your capability. If something happens to you, everything will be stuck. We're just trying to prevent problems. My voice turned cold. So you're doing this out of love? Yes, she said confidently. Rayan added, Dad, don't complicate things. Just sign. Just sign. 2 words capable of destroying a lifetime's worth of security. I pushed the papers back. No. Ayesha let out a loud breath. Uncle, why are you being so stubborn? Heba said she trusts us. Why don't you? I froze. Heba said what? Ayesha smiled. That she knows you'll get confused soon. That she supports us handling things. My stomach twisted. Heba was the only one who was on my side. There's no way she said that. I dialed Heba immediately, on speaker. Baba, she said softly. Heba, did you tell Rayan and Ayesha to take over my finances? Her voice sharpened instantly. What, never? Ayesha's face fell. Heba continued angrily. Baba, please don't sign anything they give you. They've been talking weird things lately. Ayesha snapped, You're misunderstanding. Heba shouted, No, Babai, you are manipulating. I know what you're doing. Rayan ended the call abruptly. The room turned tense. Ayesha glared at me. Uncle, now you've made things ugly. Rayan muttered, Dad, just sign and end this. My jaw tightened, no. And if you ever try to force me again, I will take legal steps. Ayesha leaned back, smiling dangerously. Oh, Uncle, you don't want to involve lawyers. Her tone wasn't a threat. It was a warning, a calculated one. They left in silence, but not before Ayesha whispered, You're making this harder for yourself. That night, unable to sleep again, I opened my banking app. I checked recent activity, and there it was. Something I had never expected, a transaction I did not approve. From my account to their business, my hands turned cold. If they had already taken money without permission, what would they try to take next? The next morning, I went straight to Cameron's office, my lawyer, my friend for 20 years, the only person I could trust. He closed the door, took the papers from me, and began reading quietly. 3 minutes later, he exhaled sharply. "This is not a bank update," he said. "This is a financial authority transfer." "What does that mean?" "It means once you sign this, Rayan and Ayesha can access your account's for funds, sell your assets, change ownership, even take loans under your name." My stomach dropped. And this section. He pointed to a paragraph buried in legal text. "This would allow them to manage your estate if you're mentally unfit." My hands trembled. "So they want to declare me incompetent." Cameron nodded slowly. "It's a common tactic when people want early control. If you had signed this, they could fully control your wealth, even while you're alive." I felt the air leave my chest. All those times they suggested I was forgetful. All the hints about old age. All the jokes about mental clarity fading. It wasn't accidental. It was preparation. "So what do I do now?" I whispered. Cameron leaned back. "Don't confront them yet. Let them think you're confused. If they believe you're weak, they'll make more mistakes, and that will give us solid evidence." I nodded slowly. He added, "And keep every document they give you, every message, every change in their tone. You'll need all of it." On my way home, I replayed the last few months. Ayesha taking over small things, Rayan obeying her without question. Talks about refreshing the estate, pressure to move in, pressure to sign papers, everything fit together like puzzle pieces forming one horrible picture. They didn't want to take care of me. They wanted to take over my life. As I reached my house, my phone buzzed. A message from Rayan. "Dad, we need to talk tonight. Something important." Another from Ayesha. "And please bring your property file. We'll sort everything once and for all." Sort. The word felt like poison. My breath turned shallow as I sat on the couch staring at their messages. Cameron's words echoed in my head. "Let them think you're weak. Their greed will expose them." I had no idea how far they were willing to go. But that night, I would find out, because when I reached their house, I walked into the real beginning of their plan. I went to Rayan's house that evening with a heaviness I had never carried before. Not even during the years when I struggled to build my business. Not even when I lost my wife. This heaviness wasn't grief or stress. It was betrayal. A betrayal that had been growing silently, like roots under concrete. Ayesha opened the door with irritation. "Oh, you're finally here," she said. "We've been waiting." I stepped inside. Rayan was pacing the room, clearly angry. "Dad, sit. We need to talk." The audacity. The man I raised, ordering me like I was a stubborn student. I sat down anyway. Calm, quiet, steady, Ayesha didn't waste time. "Uncle, this can't continue. Your spending is too high. Your priorities are outdated. You live in a big house alone. You keep your business accounts like it's 1985. You're extravagant for no reason." I stared at her. Extravagant, the same woman whose vacations I paid for, whose business failures I patched up quietly every month. Rayan added, "We're not saying you're irresponsible, but you need guidance. Things have changed." Ayesha stepped closer. "You need to stop living big." The words struck me in the chest. "Stop? What?" I said quietly. "Stop living big." She repeated, slower this time. "Lower your lifestyle. Sell unnecessary things. Learn to live simply. At your age, it's better." Silence. I looked at Rayan, my own son, my flesh, my blood, the first baby I had carried in my arms with trembling hands. He didn't defend me. He didn't soften the blow. He didn't even blink. As if rehearsed, he said, "Mom would have agreed with us." That was the moment I felt my entire being freeze. They were weaponizing the memory of the woman I loved most in this world, using her as ammunition to take control of my life. Ayesha continued, voice firm, "You're going to sign the authority papers tonight. We'll handle everything. We'll help you live practically." I leaned back and said calmly, "Do you know how much money I spend every month?" Ayesha rolled her eyes. "Yes, too much." I smiled, a slow, controlled smile. "And do you know how much I spend on you every month?" She frowned. "What do you mean?" I folded my hands and said quietly, "Let me tell you a secret." Rayan leaned forward. A secret. I nodded. For the last 5 years, I've been making 98 monthly transfers. Small ones, silent ones, to support things you have no idea about. Ayesha's eyes narrowed. What transfers? I stared directly at her. You'll find out soon. And at that exact moment, the moment their arrogance piqued, a thought settled inside me like a stone sinking into deep water. Tonight, I would let them talk. Tomorrow, I would change everything. That night, I went home early. My heart was beating hard, but my mind had never been clearer. Ayesha's words of "stop living big" kept echoing in my ears. Not because they hurt, but because they revealed the truth. They didn't want to help me. They wanted to control me. At 2:37 a.m., while the entire city slept, I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into my banking dashboard. For years, I had been making quiet payments. Their house maintenance, their car insurance, their electricity bill, their business loan, installment, grocery allowances, EMI on the renovation loan, small investments I made in Ryan's name, school fees, advance for future grandchildren, additional emergency funds, and dozens more. 98 separate transfers, scheduled, automated, never questioned. I started canceling them one by one. Cancel transfer 1. Cancel transfer 2. Cancel transfer 3. With every cancellation, I felt lighter, stronger, more alive. By the time I reached transfer 98, a strange calm had filled my chest. I wasn't taking revenge. I was taking back control. By morning, chaos had already begun. At 9:18 a.m., Ryan called. Dad, something's wrong with the business account. The installment didn't go through. At 9:42 a.m., Ayesha texted. Uncle, electricity bill bounced. Bank issue. At 10:05 a.m., another message. Why is the house maintenance payment missing? At 10:27 a.m., Ryan called again. Voice sharper this time. Dad, the loan payment failed. We got a warning notice. By noon, they came to my house. Ayesha barged in first, not even removing her shoes. What did you do? She shouted. I remained seated. What do you mean? Don't play games. She snapped. You stopped the payments. Ryan's voice cracked. Dad, we depended on those. Ah, so finally the truth crawled out. I leaned forward. I thought I should manage my money better. I said calmly, just like you advised. Ayesha's face turned red. You can't leave us hanging like this. We have bills, we have installments, we have commitments. I nodded slowly, so did I. And you told me to stop living big. So I'm simply adjusting. Ayesha slammed her fist on the table. You can't do this. I stared into her furious eyes. I already did. Her breathing quickened. Her voice turned shrill. You think you can punish us. You think you can scare us. You think you can. The sentence cut off as her phone buzzed. She read the screen. Her face turned pale. What happened? Ryan asked, she whispered. The bank froze one of our accounts. There's a discrepancy flag. Ryan looked at me, fear replacing arrogance. What's going on, Dad? I stood up slowly. This, I said softly, is just the beginning. Because they had no idea the real shock hadn't even arrived yet. For the next 2 days, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Dozens of missed calls, long paragraphs of messages, voicemail after voicemail. At first, they sounded angry. Then annoyed. Then worried. By day 3, they sounded scared. Ryan called me at 7:14 a.m. Dad, please, we need to talk. It's important. I didn't answer. At 11:50 a.m., he tried again. Dad, the business account might get audited if payments don't stabilize. I stayed silent. At 3:32 p.m., Ayesha messaged, Uncle, please, we can discuss this. Don't ignore us. Oh, now it was please. Amazing how quickly arrogance melts when comfort disappears. That evening, I heard a loud knock on my door. Ayesha stormed in like a hurricane. You're ruining everything, she cried. Our business is sinking. The renovation loan is overdue. We can't even pay the gardener. I raised an eyebrow. The gardener, that's your emergency. She glared at me. You don't understand. We planned our life based on those transfers. I took a slow breath, and I planned my old age based on respect. Ryan entered behind her, tired, defeated, smaller than I'd ever seen him. Dad, I'm sorry, he said softly. Are you sorry? I asked, or are you scared? He looked away. Ayesha interrupted, voice trembling. This is not fair. You can't just cut everything. We relied on you. I nodded. Yes, you relied on me, but you never respected me. There was a long silence. Rayan finally broke it. Dad, what do you want? Tell us, we'll do anything. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A message from Cameron. We need to meet urgently. I have something you must see. I looked up at Rayan and Ayesha. Move. I said quietly, I have to go. Ayesha panicked. Where? To meet someone who knows more about you two than you think. Her face went white. Rayan swallowed hard. What do you mean? I picked up my keys. You'll find out soon enough. I walked past them, leaving the house filled with silence thick enough to choke on, because the next meeting, the one with Cameron, would expose something neither of them expected, something hidden, something legal, something irreversible, something that would turn their lives upside down. When all the shouting, the insults, and the betrayal became too heavy to ignore, I finally did something I had been avoiding for years. I opened the old blue locker in my room. Inside it were memories, photographs, certificates, and a sealed brown envelope I had hidden long before Sod got married. It was dated nearly 8 years ago. I ran my fingers across the seal slowly, remembering the day I signed the papers. Yes, I had updated my will years ago. Back then, things were peaceful. Sod was kind, Ayesha was polite, and my grandchildren were small enough to sit on my lap and play with my beard. But even in those peaceful days, I had made a silent promise to myself. If the world ever turns against me, my grandchildren will not suffer. So I protected them. I made them the primary beneficiaries, and I left nothing, absolutely nothing, to my daughter-in-law, not to punish her, not out of hate, but because I had seen how money twisted people, and I didn't want my grandchildren's future in the hands of someone who could one day choose greed over family. I thought I would never need to reveal it, but now it was my only shield. Just then, my phone rang. It was my lawyer, Mr. Hamid, a man who had known me for over 3 decades. Sir, he said in an urgent tone I had rarely heard, we need to meet today, not tomorrow. Is something wrong? I asked. He exhaled. It's about the farmhouse and the trust documents. I found something important. My heart tightened. Trust documents, important. What did you find? I asked. I can't say on call. He replied, but it changes everything. Everything. Before I could question him further, he added, and sir, your son and daughter-in-law won't like it. He hung up. I stood there in silence, holding the sealed envelope, my hands trembling slightly. I knew one thing for certain, whatever he had discovered, whatever he wanted to reveal. It was big enough to shake the entire family, and I wasn't sure Saad or Ayesha were ready for what was coming. Standing inside Hamid's office felt like stepping into another world. Papers stacked neatly, files organized, and the faint smell of old books in the air. But none of that mattered because the first words he said were enough to stop my heartbeat. For a moment, sir. Do you remember signing these? He slid a set of documents across the table. I recognized them instantly. Years ago, long before any conflict, I had quietly transferred most of my property into a private trust. At the time, I did it for tax reasons and future security. But I had forgotten something important. Those documents were still active, still in force, still protecting me, the farmhouse, the commercial plot, even your rental units. Hamid explained, tapping each file. They don't belong to you personally anymore. They belong to the trust. I blinked. So what does that mean? It means, he said, leaning forward, your son and daughter-in-law are not automatic heirs. They cannot touch anything. They cannot claim anything. They cannot sell or transfer anything unless the trustees, your chosen trustees, approve. My chosen trustees, I had selected 2 people years ago, my old friend Tarek and my younger granddaughter's future guardian. Sir, Hamid continued, you have more power than you think. They can pressure you, they can insult you, but legally, they can't take a single brick. A wave of relief washed over me. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. And one more thing, Hamid added, pulling out a second folder, your will is tied to this trust. Meaning when you pass, everything goes directly to your grandchildren. Not your son, not your daughter-in-law. I closed my eyes for a moment. My grandchildren, innocent, pure, the only ones who still hugged me without expecting anything. So what you're saying, I whispered, is that Ayesha and Saad have no control at all. Hamid nodded. None. A gentle smile touched my lips. Not a smile of revenge, a smile of justice. But peace didn't last long, because that very evening, Ayesha stormed into my room with fury burning in her eyes. "Uncle," she shouted, "why did you meet the lawyer? Do you think we're stupid? Do you think we don't know what you're planning?" "I'm planning nothing," I said calmly. She stepped closer, her voice trembling with anger. "If you think you can cut us out, we will sue you. Sue me." Her eyes were wild with greed. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because she had no idea. I can still remember the tension in the room that day. My living room, once filled with laughter and birthday cakes, now felt colder than ice. Saad sat on one side, jaw clenched. Ayesha sat beside him, arms folded, chin lifted like she was preparing for battle. My grandchildren were in the corner, confused, whispering to each other, and in the center sat my lawyer holding a thick folder. He cleared his throat. "Let's begin." Ayesha immediately snapped, "Yes, please. We want to know why he's been meeting you behind our backs." Hamid ignored her. Instead, he read the first line from the document. "This is the last legally recognized will of Mr. Signed 8 years ago." Saad's head jerked up. Ayesha frowned. 8 years. Hamid continued reading, line by line, paragraph by paragraph, and with each sentence their faces changed. The will left all major assets to my grandchildren. Their education, housing, future funds. Everything was safeguarded. Nothing, absolutely nothing, was left to my daughter-in-law, not a penny. When Hamid read that line aloud, Ayesha's face turned pale. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. But the final blow, the farmhouse, Hamid tapped the separate deed papers. "This property," he said firmly, "is now under a trust. It cannot be claimed by any adult except the trustees." Saad stared at the documents as if they were written in another language. But that house is supposed to be mine." Hamid replied calmly, "Legally, it never was." Ayesha slammed her hand on the table. "This is unfair. He can't do this. We deserve." I finally spoke. "You deserve." I looked at her, then at my son. "What exactly? My money, my land, my houses." Silence. I continued, voice steady but heavy with hurt. "When I needed respect, you gave me orders. When I needed love, you gave me conditions. And when I needed family, you gave me betrayal." Ayesha's eyes filled with angry tears. "You planned this. You wanted to humiliate us." "No," I said softly. "I wanted to protect myself. And I wanted to protect the only people who still treat me with love. Your children." Saad finally broke. His voice cracked. "Dad, I didn't know it would go this far." I looked at him with a sadness deeper than anger. "You let her speak for you. And now the consequences are here." The room was silent. Then I dropped the final shock. "And one more thing. There's another document you haven't heard yet." Their heads snapped up. Ayesha whispered, "What? What now?" I looked at the lawyer and nodded. After the meeting, after all the accusations and tears, I knew something had to change, for good. It was no longer about money or property. It was about boundaries, about respect. I sat down one quiet evening, pen in hand, and drafted a letter. One that would make things crystal clear for Saad and Ayesha. I wasn't a child to be controlled anymore. I wasn't going to be a puppet in their game. I wrote, effective immediately, "I will no longer provide any financial support to you or your wife." It wasn't an easy decision. There was pain in it. Years of habit, years of responsibility, but it was necessary. Sometimes love means letting go and standing firm. Meanwhile, my daughter Heba stayed a beacon of hope. Unlike Saad, she never asked for money or favors. She called often, stopped by to bring homemade food, helped with the garden. She showed me what family truly means, respect and support without conditions. That contrast was painful but enlightening. A few days later, Saad called. His voice was hesitant, shaky. "Dad, I want to talk." "I'm sorry for everything." I didn't respond right away. The weight of those words hung in the air, but deep inside I wanted to believe him. "Come over," I said finally. "We need to start somewhere." It was the first step towards something neither of us fully understood yet. The following week felt like watching a slow-motion collapse. Without my financial support, Saad and Ayesha's carefully built life began to unravel. Their business faced mounting debts, creditors called, bills piled up. The luxurious lifestyle, once maintained on my generosity, crumbled like dry leaves. I heard through the grapevine that Ayesha left temporarily, retreating to her parents' house to think things over. The silence she left behind was loud and bitter. Saad, meanwhile, looked smaller every day. The arrogance faded, replaced by a weight I hadn't seen before. a humility that only hardship can teach. One afternoon, Heba called me from Sod's place. Dad, he wants to see you. He's ready. I wasn't sure what to expect, but when I arrived, I was greeted by a quiet man, a son who seemed to carry his mistakes on his shoulders. He looked at me and said simply, Dad, I've learned a lot, not just about money, but about respect and family. I want to make things right. I nodded slowly. Sometimes, consequences teach lessons that love cannot. With the storm settling, I turned my focus back to myself. I started taking care of my own lives. Small things at first, morning walks, reading old letters, spending time with Heba and my grandchildren who had always been my light in the darkness. I felt peace, not because the chaos ended, but because I reclaimed control. My relationship with Heba and the children grew stronger every day. They never asked for money. They asked for my stories, my laughter, my presence. And that's it. When it hit me, the true inheritance isn't money or property. It's respect. Money can be stolen, divided, wasted, but respect. Respect is earned, and once broken, it's the hardest thing to rebuild. I looked back at the years, at the betrayal, the pain, the greed, and I realized I had one final lesson for them, one last truth I wanted them to carry. Respect matters more than money, and now they know it too. And as I say that, I feel a quiet hope. Maybe, just maybe, that lesson will last longer than any will or deed.